we have such a great relationship with Korean Americans and with South Korea, the country. You know, it's the first place I took my overseas trip because that was a priority for us. We've had such a great relationship on behalf of the state for over 20 years now with some great Korean companies that have been in Georgia a long time. They are like family to us. We feel like that is going to continue. We've certainly seen that with the SK battery plant, with what Kia continues to do as they expand. I saw Henry, I think it was either Henry or Hank from Sanjin Brakes, that has just such a great company here. It's one of the announcements that I've made even before the pandemic, and we feel like they'll only continue to grow with what we're seeing in the market, and just feel like we have great things on the horizon. But we have also just been great friends to the Korean people and the Korean American people. They've been very good to us politically, supporting us, but also just, you know, been great Georgians to be part of what I believe is the best state in the country to live, work, and raise our families. And you all in this room and those of you in the community bring a lot to the table in regards to that. We have a diverse economy in Georgia. You know, as the governor running for re-election, I'm actually embracing that. I think we have a great story to tell to all Georgians, no matter what your background or nationality that you or your heritage came from in our state. I think that's going to be an asset for us in the November election like we've never seen before. Because when you think about what we have been through as a state, and I say we, because we have all been resilient. We have all been resilient. And we kept most of our economy open the whole pandemic, giving people the opportunity to protect their livelihood. Now, we worked very hard to protect lives in the pandemic, but we were one of the states that was forward enough thinking to realize we have to protect livelihoods as well. Because as a small business owner, like many of you in this room, I know what that means. I know how hard it is when you can't pay your rent or you can't pay the people that are working with you that have helped build your business or your co-workers that support your efforts. And I know what it's like not to be able to be in a position to provide for your family, because Marty and I have both been through that as small business owners. That's not a good feeling. And that's why I was the first governor in the country to open the economy back up, small parts of it that we had asked to shutter for a short period of time. And as you remember, I took a lot of grief from people on both sides of the political aisle for that decision. But I felt like I was doing what I promised people, and that is to put hardworking Georgians first, ahead of the status quo and the politically correct. So I was fighting for you. I was fighting for our state. I wasn't worried about what somebody in Washington, D.C. or somebody that was getting paid to sit in their basement and criticize every governor across the country for decisions they were making. I was worried about what was happening to our citizens and hardworking Georgians that were out there. And the biggest critic I had was Stacey Abrams. She also criticized when we were one of the first states in the country to get our kids back in the classroom, which is where they need to be. If you look at the data in the Trump administration and the data in the Biden administration, it says our kids can be in the classroom. And that's what we push for, putting our children first. Well, Stacey Abrams criticized us again in regards to that. And when we passed the strongest Elections Integrity Act in the country to address the mechanical issues that we saw during the 2020 election, a lot of those were made by other decision makers, not me. I got blamed for a lot of those things that either the Secretary of State, the State Election Board was doing in regards to drop boxes and sending absentee ballot applications, the outside money that was coming in to the race that was being used in not an appropriate, equitable way. You know, I got blamed for a lot of that, but I had no control over it, the way the laws and the Constitution worked. But it was proper that we address those issues, and we did that in Senate Bill 202. It's the strongest Elections Integrity Act in the country to make sure that we have secure, accessible, fair elections in Georgia. And Stacey Abrams, again, tried to cancel us, tried to get us to waver and to bend after we passed that legislation. And I pushed back on that. And even though Major League Baseball, because of that pressure from Stacey Abrams and a lot of other big corporate CEOs, moved the All-Star game to Colorado, we got justice when the Braves won the World Series. So that was good. But there's a lot of things that have been said out there that, like Louis said, it's really desperate political people that are saying those things. One thing you should know, whether you agree with what I've done or not, I have always followed the laws and the Constitution in this state and the Constitution of the United States. And that's what I'll continue to do as your governor. Here in America, if we don't do that, we will lose our country. And I know that people in South Korea feel the exact same way about their country. But that's what makes us great. And it's I think it'd be a defining moment in the governor's race when we get to the fall campaign. I would urge you not to forget that we have an election 2 weeks from today, the primary election. So we not only need your help in November to beat Stacey Abrams again, we need your help in the next 2 weeks to make sure that we turn out every vote that we can so that I will be the nominee to be able to do that. Because I believe I'm the only person that has the record to be able to do that. And it's a great record. We just had one of the greatest legislative sessions I've ever seen in my time as an adult in our state. Just incredible. When you look at our economy, because we were resilient, because we remained open, because we were the first to reopen small parts of our economy that were shuttered for a few weeks, we had the lowest unemployment rate in the history of our state. We had the most people ever working in our state's history. We had the least amount of people on the unemployment roll since post 9/11. We had a record year economically last year for projects that we worked in the department, which ended June 30th, 2021. $11 billion of new investment just on projects that we worked. 74% of those were outside the 10 metro counties. So making sure that we're growing business in all parts of our state, no matter the neighborhood, no matter the zip code. And we've certainly seen that in our state. Half the jobs that went along with those projects were outside the 10 metro counties. This year, in just the third quarter, we have broken all of last year's records. Almost $13 billion of investment, 52% increase in the number of jobs, and again, we're seeing much of the growth outside the metro area on projects that we're working. So truly focusing on making sure all parts of our state grow. And we're seeing that in places like Commerce, where the SK battery plant is, in Henry County and other places where Sanjin Brakes and other great South Korean companies are located. And that's what we're going to continue to do. And I think you'll see more in the future about that. But that's what's making our state so great. We also passed the largest state income tax cut in state history this year. But it's because we've been open. It's because we've all been resilient, especially you all and your families. But we're also doing things that help Georgians get through tough times. We did that during the pandemic by giving them choices and not being, a heavy-handed government. We've lowered taxes. We're sending $1 billion back to the taxpayer, your own money that we didn't need in the amended budget this year, to put more money in your pocket and the pockets of your employers to help them deal with the 40-year high Biden inflation that we're seeing right now because of bad decisions that they've made in Washington, like on domestic energy supply and policy. More rules, more regulations, wanting to raise our taxes, disaster at the border, a lot of other things that we're seeing. We can't fix every problem in Washington, but we can help Georgians fight through that. And that's what we've done by sending your money back to you, by doing the tax cut, and by also suspending the gas tax for 2 months to help Georgians have less pain at the pump. Because of that, we have the lowest fuel prices at the pump in the country right now. And the president's policies are just wrong. I mean, what he'd been doing over the last, you remember when he made the announcement about pulling, oil or whatever from the strategic reserves and all that? They just announced today we have the highest gas prices adjusted with inflation ever, I think. So, I mean, like, those policies didn't work. But what we're trying to do at the state level is help Georgia fight through that. But that's what this election is going to be like. And we got to get through this primary first. So please help us turn the vote out over the next 2 weeks or on May 24th. But when we do that, this whole election in the general election is going to be setting the path for the way this state and this country goes in the future. Because we have the ability to keep the ship running in the right direction and not take it the way of Joe Biden in Washington, D.C. But we also have the opportunity to send some reinforcements up there to Washington and take back at least one leg of the three-legged stool up there when you think about the House and the Senate and the executive branch or the president. And I believe we have the ability to do that. But we can only do it with your help. And what you're doing today to help us not only financially, but to be part of our team and to be engaged in our efforts, we cannot thank you enough. Because this is not for us. This is for me. This is for us. This is for all our people. I mean, we are I tell people all the time, we are fighting for the soul of our state because it will go in such a different direction if Stacey Abrams were your governor. We literally would be one new COVID variant away from our businesses being shut down, from our kids being pulled out of the school, and Lord knows what else. So thank you all for standing with us. God bless you, and we're looking forward to a great lunch.